We're live from Chevy Chase.
Welcome back. Well, today we're talking about Scrabble. You know, it's a board game and it's played by millions of people, but only a few are skilled enough to become grandmasters, and we are lucky to have one with us today. His name is Mack Meller, and he achieved the goal of Grandmaster at the ripe old age of 17. And now at 25, he's defending his title of national champ this weekend in Baltimore, Maryland. And we are just delighted to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so I read about you in the Lex Today yesterday, and I was like, this guy's right here in Lexington. We got to have him on the show. You were kind enough to come in. So tell everybody, how did you get started playing Scrabble? Because you're very young.
Yeah, so I've actually been playing for about 15 years, which is kind of crazy. It's more than half my life since I'm 25 now. Yeah. I started playing tournaments when I was 10. I've actually been playing at home since I was about 5. I started playing with my parents, and my dad especially was really good, and he used to beat me all the time. And at some point, you know, as any, I think, young kid does, I got tired of losing to my dad all the time. So I started basically just reading this paper dictionary, trying to memorize a lot of words, which it turns out I know now is a very inefficient way to study. But back then, I was 7 or 8 years old. I didn't really know better. So I started reading all of the words that started with A because they were first alphabetically. And then, you know, when I had A's on my rack, that was really nice. But the reason it's inefficient is when you don't have an A, that's not going to be very useful.
True. Right. You figured that out.
Eventually, I figured that out and started being a little bit more efficient in my word study. And I got to the point when I was probably around 9, when I was regularly having good games with my dad and even beating him a little bit. And eventually we found out about a local Scrabble club in the area. I grew up in upstate New York, and there's a really good Scrabble community up there. So I started going there really often, and eventually heard about tournaments, and the rest is kind of history from there.
Yeah. Well, this is so cool, and by age 17 you became a Grandmaster. Explain what a Grandmaster is.
Yeah, so Grandmaster title in Scrabble works a little bit different than it does in chess. In Scrabble, it's more about longevity at the top level more than winning any sort of specific event. You have to be in the top 1% of North American rankings for 5 straight years.
5 years?
For 5
wow.
years.
So from 12 to 17?
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly. So I'd achieved a 2,000 rating, which is more or less typically where the 1 percentile falls by age 13. But I was able to maintain it for 5 years, and then I was given the Grandmaster title at 17. Now the thing with Scrabble that's also unlike chess is you can actually lose titles.
Okay.
So you have to keep playing at a high level to hold on to the title. And I've been able to do that, and I was fortunate enough to win the national championship last year, which was actually right next door in Indiana in South Bend. And now it's going to be in Baltimore, Maryland this year. I'll be heading over actually on Friday to defend my title. So it's going to be a tall order, but we'll see how that goes.
You can do it. We have faith in you.
I hope so.
So what are you doing to prepare?
Yeah, so at this point in my Scrabble career, it's more about reviewing words I already know and just getting repetitions over the board than it is learning new words. When I was like 10, 11, 12, I was learning a lot of new words, and then once I had learned all of the words that are useful in Scrabble, once you get longer than about 8 or 9 letters, words start to not be that useful over the board just because you only have 7 tiles on your rack at a time. So to play even a 9-letter word, you have to play through 2 tiles on the board, which is very difficult to do. So most of the times that I play a bingo, which is using all of your letters, that gets you a 50-point bonus. It's a 7 or 8-letter word.
Okay.
So it's not really worth it to study the 11, 12-letter words. They just never come up. So I already had known pretty much all of the words through 8 letters by the time I was about 13 or 14. So since then, it's been more about reviewing the words and just making sure I'm really solid. Because it's important to know not just what is a word, but also be able to find it, right? You don't just draw the letters in order on your rack and they spell out a word. You have to be able to anagram it or unscramble it.
Right.
And you also have to know what is a word and what isn't, because sometimes your opponent will play something that's not a valid word.
Well, I was going to ask, do you challenge?
Bluffing.
Do you challenge?
Exactly. And bluffing, or as we call it, phonying, is actually a very important part of Scrabble.
Interesting.
And obviously at the top level, it doesn't happen quite as much just because everyone's so solid on their words and it's very difficult to get away with something. But you will see it, especially if someone's in a bad position. Let's say they're down 100 points and they feel like they really need to bingo quickly to get back into the game. Especially, you know, if you feel like you're playing someone who might not be quite as strong, you might try to play a word you know is not actually valid, because if I play a word and you challenge and it is a word, then you lose your turn. So people are often hesitant to challenge a word if they're not sure and risk losing the turn.
Okay. Well, we are out of time today. I wish we weren't, because I could talk to you forever. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you very much.
If you win, you got to come back, okay?
We'll do.
All right.
Absolutely.
Now we do have one little teaser. So what is the question that you want everybody to answer or try to answer?
The word puzzle for the audience is there is one 15-letter word that does fit on a Scrabble board. It's acceptable in Scrabble, and it contains all 9 letters in Lexington. Importantly, that requires both of the ends.
Yes, and I racked my brain. I could not come up with it. What is the answer?
The answer is contextualizing.
Yes.
All right,
I
don't even know what that means.
We're so excited. We're going to be following you and find out if you win.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. There's Mack's information. Make sure you're following him.